This tank is a T-54 lightweight. This is a Russian Tier 9 light tank, and the map is Malinovka in the encounter mode. I'm going to show you how to spot in the beginning of this game. I'm going to count how many tanks we spot, and hopefully we'll get some spotting damage. Now, you have the choice. I'll talk about this real quick. When you spot, you can either run through the buildings, run through the field, or run through this low area. My technique is to run through the open area on the way towards the enemy. And the reason why is because right now I am not spotted. And this is the most dangerous position to be in. So when I become spotted and I turn around, I'm going to be more vulnerable because I'll be spotted, and I'm going to be showing the rear of my tank. I'm either going to duck into the left in the lower area, or I'm going to go through the buildings and use the buildings to block my exit. Okay, so that's one tank spotted. 495 spotting damage. That's a second tank spotted. You notice I'm driving close to buildings. A third tank spotted. So I only spotted 3 tanks. I don't remember if it said I was spotted. I'm sure I was. Okay, so that was spotting damage on a T-49. I'm doing the same maneuver, taking the same path. Spotted a tank. Now I'm taking the lower area on my way out. I got more spotting damage on the enemy T-49, so I'm up to 792 spotting damage. Again, I'm following the same path. I'm going on the more dangerous route on my way towards the enemy, and I'll take a safer route on the way out. You really want to avoid knocking down solid objects that can be used to block incoming fire. It's a very aggressive spotting position right here. And you can just duck around over here until you become unspotted if you want. You can just sit there and hide at that position. So I got 243 damage, 914 spotting damage. Now they're aware. They become aware of what your technique is, so you don't want to use the same technique over and over again. You want to vary it somewhat. And it looks like their T-49 was taken out of the game, which is a big help for me because it's going to make it far more difficult for the enemy to spot me. Unfortunately, I was spotted while trying to take up a passive spotting position. And because I was already spotted, I decided to fire my gun. This is obviously active spotting. I decided to head south for various reasons. You know, you've got lower land and fewer enemy targets. I've got allies here in the south. So that Rheinmetall that hit me for 886 damage, he's out of the game now. He was killed. You really got to zigzag when you're out in the open. And now that FCM-50T is out of the game. He was killed by one of the snipers on the other side of the lake up on the hill. Now you notice that I'm driving perpendicular to the Jagdpanzer, not that he was aiming at me. But you want to drive perpendicular so that if he does aim at you, it's more difficult for him to hit you. If you go away from him or towards him, it's easier for him to hit you. Okay, so let's move on to the next video. This is the AMX 13105. This is a French Tier 10 light tank, and the map is Highway. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to an initial spotting position. Then I'm going to go to a secondary spotting position. I'm going to spot a couple tanks. And then I'm going to go to the enemy base. I'm going to scout out the enemy base. I'm going to locate the enemy SPG. I'm going to kill the enemy SPG, and by that time we'll have cleaned up in the northwest, and we're going to have a big lead over the enemy early on in the game. So one of the things that I do as a player now, you first start out spotting, but then now that I'm more advanced, I always snipe when I can. So I'm going to start sniping on these guys. I'm going to pull back. Let's see if we can get one more in. Probably not. So now I'm going to move into a secondary position. The secondary position is closer to the enemy. And the reason why I come to this position is because if you go to the secondary position and the enemy light tank also heads out into the field, you're more likely to get spotted. So that's why I wait until we've verified that the enemy light tanks haven't come out here before I come to this position. From here, I wait till the binocs come on, and you'll notice that no enemy tanks were spotted up on the hill towards the enemy base. So I decided to get closer to the enemy, and I still have a way out. I can easily turn right and dive off the side and escape. Right now, I'm missing an opportunity to snipe on those tanks up in the northwest and help out my team. And I decided instead to continue scouting out the base. I did spot the Badger. One of those enemy tanks is now out of the game. Watch this easy shot. Ah, come on. It sucks when you're that close and you miss an easy shot like that. Well, at least we know it won't happen again. Okay, so now we got a second SPG. My gun is making weird movements because I have high latency. You notice I'm going perpendicular to him. You want to avoid going directly towards the SPG because you don't want him to be able to aim at you. Easy shot. Miss. Got cheated. You know what? It's probably because I have the 220 millisecond ping time. That's probably why I missed. The gun goes all over the place. Okay, so that's the end of the scouting portion of this video. Score is 5-0. I got 2 kills, 990 damage, 1,145 spotting damage. And I just wanted to show you how easy it is, but you have to do it when you have the right opportunity. If you don't have the right opportunity, then obviously you don't do this maneuver. This tank is the AMX 13105. This is a French Tier 10 light tank, and the map is Westfield. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of scouting, and I'm going to try a new technique. We're going to have some success. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the upper level, and I'm going to be looking for tank destroyers that are slow to get into position, or heavy tanks that are also slow to get into the fighting position where they like to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drive along where the buildings are, and I'm going to stay relatively close to the buildings. So if I get spotted, I'll be able to head into the solid cover. So I already spotted a T-44, and I was able to get 743 spotting damage on that tank. So you can see I still haven't been spotted yet. I just got spotted. I was able to spot a 110. Now we have a pretty good idea of where the enemy is, and you'll note that the tank that was up here on the upper level was killed. In the tank, I'm pointing at the G4 area, that's where he was. That might be his dead tank right there, I'm not sure. So the enemy tank was killed, so I decided to come to this position to see if I could snipe on anyone. And it's not easy. I'm going to get some shots in. Here we've got a tank that I can fire at. And I've got an escape route. I can go down this little opening here and head to the lower area. Now, because there are 2 artillery in the game, enemy artillery, what I'm going to do is I'm going to head for the enemy artillery. And because it's a corridor map, it's going to be very safe and very easy for me to get there. They made this little corridor for defensive purposes, and I'm going to be able to take advantage of it. So you can see we've got these enemy artillery. And there's an M46 KR that's on his way over. I'm going to go check him out to see what he's up to. He's going to die. He's not going to make it. But there is the Batchat 12T who's going to show up. I'm going to let him ram me because I know it's going to do more damage to him. And then I'm going to have to kill both of these tanks. Okay, so that's the end of the scouting portion of this game. Let's move on to the next video. This tank is the AMX 13105. This is a French Tier 10 light tank, and the map is Tundra. I'm going to show you a way that you could scout out this map at the beginning. It's a medium risk, depending on what side you're playing, because enemy tanks might show up at the bridge, which will put you in danger, and you'd have to call off the spotting run. I believe I've already spotted 2 tanks. You'll notice that nobody spotted me. Okay, I guess somebody spotted me. But you can get here in a safe position. I spotted 6 tanks, and then you just leave down the escape route. So I spotted 6 tanks. I didn't receive any damage, and I got 367 spotting damage. Now, about this technique, there is a risk you can encounter someone at the bridge. You can do it from the south, team heading north. It works easily because the terrain near the bridge is not flat. There's a lot of bumpy areas, so you can easily sneak across and get away. However, like I said, there are enemy tanks that will line up on the bridge to snipe, who you might have to deal with. And chances are it's going to be difficult for your team to set up sniping. Not impossible. It is possible, but it's difficult. You have to have a team that is really aware of what's going to happen. Most people just want to go to their playing position, and they're not willing to set up a sniping position. And the other issue is you want to know how many arty you have. In the higher tier games, arty has a long reload. Okay, so I was taken out. Okay, so that was the game, and we'll see this same technique in other videos. This tank is the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. This is a German Tier 10 light tank. The map is Serene Coast. I'm going to show you how to scout out the enemy at the beginning of the game. And there's a couple different ways to do it. We're going to see how many tanks we can spot. So that's the first one. And watch the path that I'm taking. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it looks like I spotted 9 tanks on that run, which is about 2/3 of the enemy team. And I did get hit once. The AMX hit me for 398 damage, and I did 165 spotting damage. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this technique. We'll play the game. Yes, you can spot a lot of tanks. So what it's going to do is it's going to give you an idea as to the strategy that the enemy is going to take on this map. I believe that you do get a battle medal. So you get a lot of bonds. You might get a lot of bonds by spotting lots of tanks. So there is a reward to doing the maneuver. Now, some of the drawbacks. The drawbacks, first of all, if you do it wrong, you could get one shot by a well-equipped tank. A tank that has a derp gun could easily one-shot you. Doesn't happen that often, but you want to take the right path. You want to always stay low. Don't go any further than you need to go. Make sure your tank is equipped properly, etc. The disadvantages are that chances are your team's not going to do a lot of spotting damage, especially if you're in a top-tier game. And the big disadvantage with the Tier 10 game is that the artillery has a much longer reload time. Some artillery might have a 30 or 40-second reload time. So they just won't be reloaded in time to take advantage of the spotting that you did. So it's a technique that will have more benefit early on in the game. And the other thing you want to do is sometimes you might want to check to see how many artillery is on your team before you make the run. If you have 3 artillery, then it might be a lot more profitable to run across the map at the start of the game. And if you have no artillery, then it might make no sense at all. One of the other issues is if you can get your allies to back you up and set up sniping positions, then it can definitely pay off. But that requires a change in the meta. I've played the game many times, and even if you tell people, I'm going to spot tanks in this location, set up over here to snipe, they still won't do it. It's rare that people will listen when you do a spotting run. Okay, so that's one of the spotting runs. You can do the same thing to spot the north side. And there's other techniques. If you watch my other videos, you can see the other ways to scout on this map. Let's move on to the next video. This tank is a WZ-131. This is a Chinese Tier 7 light tank. The map is Serene Coast. So we're going to do some scouting at the beginning of the game. There's a couple different techniques that I found. Some are good for sniping. Some are just for scouting and spotting. If you want to stay safe, you want to stay near the buildings as much as possible. And you want to have an escape route. You want to know where you're going to go as soon as you get spotted so that you can get out as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. You notice that that first tank that was spotted was not spotted by me. Someone else spotted him. So I spotted one tank, which was low. And I'm going to return to base, and I always go far enough back that the enemy will hopefully lose me off their radar. Because when I come back in, I don't want them to be able to anticipate the route that I might take. Don't have any spotting damage yet. So in that run, I did not spot anything. I didn't go that deep. Something funny actually happened in this game. My ally says to ping the enemy arty, and what's going to happen is the arty was just spotted, so obviously everyone is pinging him now on the mini-map. Which, you know, that was a good laugh. Okay, so I did a third spotting run. I did not, maybe I picked up that Rheinmetall, and I got a 45 TP. But I did not get any spotting damage or any substantial spots. Okay, so there was some spotting damage. I got 267 on the Rheinmetall, Waffenträger, whatever it is. Going in for another spotting run. This is not a technique that I use very often, so I haven't quite refined it, but I know the basics of the technique. So I spotted the VK. The VK and the 45 TP are all the way on the west side, and I did get spotting damage on that 45 TP, 100 damage. So that was another run that didn't produce very much. One of the other things that I'm going to point out is even if I do spot something deep in the enemy territory, we don't have allies set up in sniping positions. The only one who'd be able to hit them would be the artillery. Okay, so let's move on to the next video.